In the course of our 65-year history, we've been fortunate to have some tremendous leaders here at the LCRA, and we've honored them by naming our dams, our power plants, and our buildings after them. Well, now you can add one more name to the honor roll, a man who worked his way all the way up from the mailroom to the top position at the LCRA and was responsible for building much of the infrastructure that we have today. On August 22nd, the LCRA dedicated the brand new state-of-the-art Elof Soderberg Systems Operation Control Center. The dedication of the new Elof Soderberg Systems Operation Control Center is just one more achievement for a man who dedicated most of his life to the LCRA. When Elof was just a young engineer, the LCRA was just beginning to build its generation and transmission system. Although the most sophisticated devices were a telephone and a slide rule, it was still an exciting time to be a part of what would later become one of the most respected utilities in the country. With the passing of the years, the megawatts have grown, the miles of transmission lines have stretched further. But one thing that hasn't changed is the way people feel about the LCRA and Elof Soderberg.
He helped the organization stay on course when it was going through some significant transition, the greatest transition that we've ever seen. And he is the guy that held the course and got us to where we are today. And so all of us will be eternally grateful to Elof Soderberg, and it's only fitting that we dedicate this building in his honor.
Elof Soderberg made us a family again. He brought us happiness and pleasantness. I think he brought us cooperation with the co-ops, perhaps more than anyone.
I have discovered that some of the things have never changed, and I hope they never do. One is the spirit of the LCRA employees. Second thing is the spirit of the people we serve, who expect and demand your best, but are also very fair and honest. That's our customers. And the third thing is Central Texas. This is the most beautiful, most perfect place in the world. These are the things about LCRA that I love. And if you can associate my name with these qualities, I am truly honored, and I really am. Thanks to all of you, and God bless every one of you.
Of course, you wanted your way, but you got it.
For the 200 people who attended the dedication, it was a chance to reminisce about the old days and to mark the beginning of a new era for the LCRA. Costing $15 million, the 35,000 square foot building looks as smart outside as it functions inside.
We've had many electric utilities come to visit the control center. The ERCOT has come by. They're now building a new facility in Taylor that will be modeled somewhat closely to our control center. San Antonio Public Service has also come in, and they are looking at building a new control center modeled after our facility.
The SOC is staffed by 20 operators who watch over the generation and transmission system 24 hours a day. And with over 3,000 miles of transmission lines, which carry as much as 2,500 megawatts of electricity, there is a lot of responsibility. As the LCRA's electric business continues to grow and we prepare for restructuring of the industry, the Elof Soderberg SOC Center will be ready as well. There are 3 additional consoles ready to plug in as growth occurs. This is truly a first-class facility, named in honor of a first-class engineer.
One of the power plants that will be monitored at LCRA's new SOC Center is currently under construction here in Hays County near San Marcos. Independent power producer American National Power is building this gas-fired facility called the Hays Energy Plant. It will produce 1,100 megawatts of power. This switch yard is where that new power will tie into the LCRA transmission system. Crews from LCRA's Transmission and Energy Services Company, or TENSCO, began work on this 8-acre site back in September of '99. They've poured 290 foundations, erected 140 steel structures, and placed all of the huge 345,000-volt switches and breakers into position.
We have factory specs on this breaker here, and what we're doing, we're comparing our test with the factory specs and make sure that everything's the same.
Now, all of the equipment and miles of cable that run through the yard are being carefully tested and connected.
They're bringing their voltage out at 22,000 volts. From that, they'll send their power into their GSUs, which is a generator and step-up unit transformer, and that will step the voltage up to 345,000. From that point, it's delivered to the AMP switch yard through their breakers, from coming into our system through the optical CTs into our 345 kV bus work. From there, we got several directions going out of this switch yard. We'll have 2 lines going back to Zorn substation, plus we got an existing line going back to Kendall substation.
Building a facility like this takes a tremendous amount of planning, engineering, and coordination.
Our department was involved in doing the facility study with American National Power. We sort of helped lay out our facilities with the plant facilities. We worked out through their contractors the actual design of the substations, how we connect across the switch yard, how we deal with the metering of the power plant, and all the devices that it takes to interconnect their power into our network.
The Hayes Energy Plant is scheduled to be online in June of 2001.
When the Texas legislature convenes in January 2001, one of the major issues they'll be dealing with is water. The lawmakers will be looking at the Senate Bill 1 planning process, which examines the water needs of all 16 regions of the state. Now, Region K is made up of 14 counties in the lower Colorado River Basin. Right now, Jeff Wool reports on the results of that Region K planning process.
You've probably noticed that Texas is growing. More people are coming to our state every day. It's hard to believe, but by the year 2050, the population in Texas is expected to double. That's 17 million additional people moving to Texas within the next 50 years, and every one of them will need water. In 1997, the Texas legislature took a proactive approach to the situation by approving Senate Bill 1, sweeping legislation that created 16 regional water planning groups, whose mission is to develop long-term water plans for each area of the state. The Colorado River Basin has been identified as Region K.
Senate Bill 1 planning groups were charged to come up with a plan from the grassroots level to determine the water needs and how those water needs could be satisfied in each of the 16 planning areas. And about a year ago, our region determined that we were water short, in other words, we didn't have enough water to meet our water needs in our basin. And the largest impact of that shortage was on our rice industry in the lower counties.
Ronald Gertson is one of those people who may have to do without. As the combines roll across the summer rice crop, Gertson worries about whether he and his neighbors will have enough water in the future to keep the economy of this region going.
You take Eagle Lake, for example, which is about 6 miles from where we're standing right now. That community has very little other than rice production to depend upon. A lot of your businesses in that town are dependent upon farmers.
According to projections from the Region K Planning Group, within the next 50 years, water for agricultural irrigation in Colorado, Wharton, and Matagorda counties will flow at a 160,000 acre-feet deficit. An acre-foot is equal to roughly 326,000 gallons. That means they'll only be getting about half the water they'll need.
There is no rice production without water.
Increasingly, agriculture and small communities will find it more difficult to get the water they need unless changes are made to the way we manage water.
Growth has caught up with the ability of that resource to supply the water that we need. It's time to look forward. It's time to look at what the next major investment will be in order for us to protect our economy, protect our future, protect our growth, protect our health.
But the erratic flow of the Colorado River, with its periodic floods and high flows, may carry enough water to eliminate the shortages downstream, leaving more water in the highland lakes for use by upstream communities. An estimated 70% of the water that flows through the Colorado is never pulled from the river and empties out into Matagorda Bay. Region K has come up with a proposal that would divert some of that water for use in the rice fields of Colorado, Wharton, and Matagorda counties. According to Region K's plan, 4 small reservoirs would be developed. each close to the river and each capable of holding 25,000 acre-feet of water. These off-channel reservoirs would be filled during floods or high flow periods using a network of pumps and channels that would divert water out of the river before it empties into Matagorda Bay. Water would flow through canals to the agricultural fields of the lower Colorado River Basin. Almost an equal amount will be saved through continued conservation techniques, such as laser leveling and canal rehabilitation. During times of drought, a limited amount of groundwater would be pumped into the off-channel reservoirs, but under no circumstances would groundwater ever be sent to San Antonio. Between the off-channel reservoirs, the water conservation measures, and the use of groundwater during droughts, 330,000 acre-feet of water would be captured and added to the basin's water supply. Additional water in the southern river basin would limit water releases from the highland lakes, meaning higher lake levels even during droughts. The development of this water costs far more than the residents of the Colorado River Basin can afford. That's where the San Antonio region comes into the picture. According to the latest projections, Bexar County will be about 350,000 acre-feet short of annual water needs by 2050, a sobering situation that has San Antonio and the Region L Planning Group looking to the Colorado River Basin for help. So far, the San Antonio region has identified 14 proposals involving the transfer of either groundwater or surface water from the Colorado River Basin to San Antonio. In essence, financial resources from the San Antonio region would pay the entire cost of developing 330,000 acre-feet of water in the Colorado River Basin. 150,000 acre-feet of that water would go to San Antonio, and 180,000 acre-feet would stay in the lower Colorado River Basin for irrigation purposes, municipal use, and to raise lake levels. But the plan has raised environmental concerns that must be addressed before any of this happens. The water that would be captured and stored in the new off-channel reservoirs is part of the freshwater inflow that currently feeds the Matagorda Bay system. It's an ingredient crucial to the spawning and nurturing of Gulf fish and shellfish. For the last 8 years, the Lower Colorado River Authority has been carefully monitoring the saline levels of Matagorda Bay waters to make sure enough fresh water from the Colorado River is being added to the bay. The LCRA has made clear that the freshwater diversion plan will not happen until this environmental concern is resolved.
We can be better off. But I will tell you all, as a group here tonight, that if we can't solve the environmental problem, if we can't make this good from an environmental standpoint, then we shouldn't be doing this. Because I don't think we ought to be sacrificing the downstream environment for San Antonio or for the lake levels up here as far as that goes. There ought to be a balance, and we're going to be searching for it.
At public meetings throughout the Colorado River Basin, residents are becoming familiar with the proposal and modifying it as it evolves. Even more public input will shape this proposal as it moves through the lengthy permitting process. But at this point, response to the proposal has been cautious but positive.
I think it's important that the two regions work together, and I was pleased to hear that LCRA was forward-looking and planning to be helpful, and I'm sure that the planning group members are enthusiastic about this idea. I think it's going to be a good combination.
I'm guardedly optimistic that we can work out the details on this as we move forward and make it part of our regional plan. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Once the regional plans are approved by the planning groups, they'll be passed along to the Texas Water Development Board for their review. Ultimately, the Texas legislature will act on the proposals. LCRA General Manager Joe Beal sat down with us recently to discuss just how this Region K plan will affect the LCRA and its employees.
Of course, the obvious first thing, purely from a business standpoint, is that there would be a significant amount of additional revenue flowing into LCRA. If we sell 150,000 acre-feet of water with our current sales price of $105 an acre-foot, you go through the numbers, that's something on the order of $16 million annually that would be coming into LCRA. If LCRA is involved in the construction of the facilities and the financing of the facilities, which I believe that we will, you're talking about a $1 billion program in total. And if you assume that LCRA is involved in even 60 to 75% of that, then you're looking at $600 to $750 million worth of financing and construction. Debt service coverage would be available to LCRA. That could be another $10 million. So at the end of the program, we could see an additional $25 million coming to LCRA on an annual basis. That's a lot of money. What does it mean? It means that LCRA would be much less reliant on our electric business to fund all of the mission-driven activities that we do. Not only are we coming up with a way that a large part of the state can have the water that it needs, but we are developing techniques, technology, permitting strategies that are brand new to this state. The environmental solutions that we will come up with will be the types that can be the benchmark for projects like this that may be developed in the future for the state. The way I see it finally is that there is a great need for this project. There's a great opportunity for LCRA, and we have great people here that can solve this problem and cause there to be a good solution. And I'm really excited about being involved in it.
2, 1.
Welcome to the brand new, completely renovated North Shore Park on Lake Bastrop.
We are pleased to be able to help you promote your new parks. We're very proud of South Shore, and we are equally proud of North Shore. And the reservation number is 389-8900. That's a number we give out all day, every day.
This facility was first dedicated over 35 years ago after Lake Bastrop was created as a cooling lake for the Sim-Gideon power plant.
You have a lot of issues you face with a park that's basically 35 years old. It's been loved by many over the years, and in many cases it had been loved to death.
The park renovation had two major goals: to separate the different use areas and to add new and improved facilities.
We never had the docks, the fishing piers here that we do now. The pavilion's just a new opportunity. We hope that fishing groups, for example, can take advantage of that. Having a separate camping loop with full hookups, I think will make just an incredible difference here. We pulled the parking back from the lake so that you've got a much more family-oriented day use area. So, as far as having an impact on an area, I think this is probably one of the best.
The continuing partnership between the LCRA and Texas Parks and Wildlife made this project possible, the latest in a long line of park projects created throughout the Colorado River Basin.
This is where the public really does see LCRA, and this is really what our mission is about. This is what the legislature intended 65 years ago when it created us. And I'm just thankful that we're able to manage ourselves in such a way that we can develop something like this for the public and have the public enjoy the fruits of our labor and enjoy what our customers have been able to provide for them with the revenues that they provided to us. So, this is a win-win deal, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Reservations for certain LCRA parks can now be made through the Texas Parks and Wildlife Reservation System or by calling the LCRA at 1-800-776-5272, extension 3366.
And in another partnership with Texas Parks and Wildlife, the LCRA and local residents on Lake LBJ have teamed up in a project designed to improve both fish habitat and water quality in the lake.
This is really an experimental approach, is reintroducing plants into reservoirs in Texas. Today what we hope to do is put in a variety of plants in different exclosures, and exclosures are to keep fish or turtles out from eating the plants that we put in. So we're going to look at which exclosures work the best, which plants work the best, and then see if we can go from there and establish nurseries and putting more native plants into Lake LBJ.
Once all the plants and equipment were loaded, crews headed out to the planting sites, which had been scouted and chosen in advance.
You want a site protected from the weather, wind, wave action. Young plants do better in protective area. And you want a site that lends itself to root growth and establishment.
All of the plants came from the Louisville Aquatic Ecosystem Research Facility in Louisville, Texas. Once the plants take hold and mature, the wire enclosures can be removed.
This lake has gotten so that because of lack of habitat, it's a little bit harder to catch fish here than one would like. It doesn't compare well to the better bass fishing lakes in Texas. And it's largely because of all the urbanization of the lake and as I say, the lack of shoreline plants for fish habitat. So we're out here trying to improve fishing, improve the habitat, improve the survivability of young fish.
The hope is to establish a nursery here for native aquatic plants that then can be harvested and transplanted to other areas.
Be sure to pick up a copy of the September 2000 issue of the LCRA News and learn about what the LCRA is doing to discourage looters from stealing artifacts and destroying archaeological sites on Lake Travis. And you can find out more about the Senate Bill 1 Region K water plan and read about the LCRA employees who are trying to save the nest of a red-tailed hawk family perched high atop a 120-foot transmission tower in New Braunfels. All that and much more in the September LCRA News.
Texas leads the nation in deaths and property damage caused by flooding. And with the tremendous growth that's taking place in the Colorado River Basin, more people live and work in the floodplain now than ever before.
We have a very hefty agenda.
In July, the LCRA sponsored Floodplain Summit 2, which was attended by elected officials, floodplain managers, and emergency management coordinators from throughout the region.
If we did have a large flood, it would have tremendous damages in this basin. That it's time we take a concerted look at our floodplain management methodologies and successes, and try to band together and try to come together and develop a common way of approaching smart growth, responsible growth in the floodplains, not to prohibit growth, but to do it wisely.
A lot of what you'll be seeing demonstrations of is the concept of working together.
The 72 attendees unanimously supported forming a coalition of local governments to coordinate floodplain management in the lower Colorado River Basin. This coalition would be similar to one formed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, dealing with floodplain issues on the Trinity River.
It takes people making hard decisions. They may be land use related, they may be dealing with public investment of dollars, tax dollars, and so when you have people cooperating to say, well, I'll do it in my community if you'll do it in your community, and together we'll make both of our communities stronger, we've seen those kinds of benefits occur time and again.
The main goal of the coalition is to save lives and reduce property damage from any future floods on the river.
For years, the Lower Colorado River Authority has tested the water chemistry along the Colorado River Basin. Now the LCRA is conducting biological studies that they say will help them preserve the habitat of fish and insects. News 36's Veronica Obregon shows us how the tests are done and what they mean.
Are severe weather conditions affecting fish and their habitat? A question the Lower Colorado River Authority is trying to answer.
Right.
First, they shock the water to catch a sample of fish.
These are two species of darter. They don't want pollutants in their water. They require a lot of oxygen. And also they feed on insect larvae.
The LCRA also found flyhead catfish, a catch that led to a positive conclusion.
This species right here, generally these feed on other fishes, small fishes. So we've got a well-established food chain. We don't have just one particular type of fish.
This Guadalupe bass indicated the Pedernales River has high water quality, considering the drought.
You're not going to find these in, polluted waters. So, like I said, so far so good in terms of what we've been looking at today.
Next, a sample of insects.
Usually if you run across a Helgramite, you've got really good water quality because they're very oxygen sensitive.
And after a measurement of the habitat, the scientists record their data and come to a conclusion.
Overall, it's in very good condition for the drought that we're in. As we collect this information and we do find a problem, we'll be able to target in on it.
And that means the LCRA will do what it takes to preserve our natural environment and the species that live there. At the Pedernales River, Veronica Obregon, News 36.
Scientists say species diversity is the best sign when studying the biology of rivers. The LCRA is scheduled to test 10 sites along the Colorado River Basin twice a year.
Some priceless pieces of Texas history are literally disappearing. Once protected by Lake Travis, the recent drought has exposed them to treasure hunters. Fox 7's Jeff Knapshin has the story.
Deep in the woods near this dried-up tributary of Lake Travis, and back behind these tall plants is a piece of Texas history.
We have here's an example of one of the prehistoric archaeological sites that's being vandalized.
Archaeologist Dan Prickrill spent years studying these sites and recently discovered the work of looters.
It makes me feel real bad because, you know, there are only so many of these archaeological sites left.
This one may be over 10,000 years old. Dan believes Native Americans camped here, leaving behind stone tools and burnt rocks. But when he got here, most of the artifacts were gone, and in their place, empty soda bottles. Dan says the reason for the rise in robberies can be found in the lack of water.
This is the upper part of Lake Travis, although it looks more like a river right now. It's actually about 20 feet below normal for this time of year. A normal level would put me underwater down here. When it is full, it actually would come up to right about here, which is the edge of this archaeological site.
You know, people were up in that bank right there, and we've actually filled in a couple of feet. They had dug down, and they were just slinging all this dirt and debris over their shoulder.
Unfortunately, the damage is also severe at this site. If caught, they face a violation of state law.
We'd have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. In extreme circumstances, we could file charges, and it's up to the judge to determine what the penalties would be.
Jail time?
Possibly.
That's why Dan hopes to send a message to potential looters about the cost, to them and to Texas history.
People need to realize that this vandalism is ruining the scientific potential of these archaeological sites.
Jeff Knapshin, Fox 7 News.
We leave you this time with some sights and sounds from the summer day camps at McKinney Ruff's Environmental Learning Center.